In the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, for the second consecutive week.
I'll warn the new board members that they may be next, so prepare.
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic
for
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. We'll start with public participation. Dr. Joyner and Dr. White.
Okay, so you have 3 minutes, and when you reach the end of your time, you will hear me say time, and you can complete your sentence. Thank you. Mr. White, who's next?
There are no hands at this time. I was double checking to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Oh, we got one hand. Heiklis Williams, you may speak.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is staying healthy despite the pandemic. I want to congratulate the newly appointed board members. I also want to thank Dr. Jackson, Mr. Conaway for their tireless service. I will certainly miss them. Darnell, if you're in earshot, I wish for you a speedy recovery and restoration of good health. Today, I am making a plea to the Board of Education, the members, and staff to ensure that all staff are paid when they're required by the health department to be quarantined due to COVID. Last year, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act covered these employees, but it has since been expired. In August, on August 23rd, there was a nice presentation outlining the protocols for the return to school for the 2021 to 2022 school year. The NHPS and the city should hold to its integrity on this portion of the presentation, and I'll quote, "Staying home when sick with COVID-19 is essential to keep COVID-19 infection out of schools and prevent spread to others. Allow flexible, non-punitive, and supported paid sick leave policies and practices that encourage sick workers to stay home without fear of retaliation, loss of pay, or loss of employment level, and provide excused absences for students who are sick." This should not take a contractual language to pay for the time off of these staff members who is not in their control, whether they get COVID or don't get COVID, or whether they're exposed at school or anywhere else, beyond their control. It is injustice for those who have little or no accrued time to lose pay or to contemplate whether or not they should report to school if they have a positive case or if they're in contact with a positive case. In some cases, staff are told not to report to work because they have close contact with another person at work, and that's not their fault. So why should they lose pay? If we're trying to make schools safe for all stakeholders, we need to pay for the time off due to this COVID. It's no fault of of people when they're sick, and it is unfair for us not to be paid when we have COVID symptoms or COVID positive or whatever it is. It's not fair, and there's a lot of money that came into the city for COVID-related illnesses, and we should use those to offset any extra cost that is incurred. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leslie Blatt. Ms. Blatt, you may begin.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have prepared remarks tonight. My name is Leslie Blatt. I'm the president of the New Haven Federation of Teachers, but I would like to express my solidarity with the paraprofessional union and with Heiklis' statement this evening, and work with the board and with central office so that the paraprofessionals, in the name of public health, can also be protected when it comes to sick days and quarantining in the name of our school communities. public health. Thank you for your time, and thank you to President Williams for raising this important concern tonight.
Our next speaker is Alicia Norris.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss such an important issue tonight. I am a proud pre-K para at Davis Street School. Recently, I was out of work for a week after being positive with COVID. I returned a few days later and then felt ill again shortly after, which I'll explain in a minute. Because the paras contracts were completed before COVID, we do not get paid for this time, unlike the teachers who do because of the time that the COVID came about after theirs was added in. The fact that we are in the same class with the same children and exposed to the same germs, but if we as paras get sick with COVID symptoms or are positive, we have to use our sick time. But in my case, I was hired in October, so I don't have any sick time. So I am just not paid. We are constantly caring for our students who cannot legally be vaccinated in the pre-K 4 and pre-K 3. But because we love our jobs, if we do catch the virus, we are penalized without pay while dealing with it. My school, Davis Street School, is top-notch for communication and safety. If our admin team knows something, we know it. If they have resources available, they share them. I'm very comfortable in having a safe environment. It's the factors outside of their control that are the concern. And one quick example, one Tuesday, one of our students, a 4-year-old, sneezed inside of his mask. Most of the little ones have a hard time with putting their masks on and off. So I knelt down and I helped him take it off and put a new one on. Mid putting it on, he sneezed right in my face. So that was unavoidable. I continued, I helped him, I put his mask on, I made him feel safe, and then I cleaned, I sanitized and everything on myself. But the next day I fell ill, and unbeknownst to me, so did the coworker in the classroom with me. So I was out that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and my coworker tested positive for COVID during that time as well. We are willing to take the risks, but it's not fair to not be compensated for them. And another concern is being put in the position going forward. What if I do have symptoms or feel sick? Will I let the officials know and risk not being able to afford food or sacrifice my family's well-being by not being paid? Or will I take that chance that it's not COVID and go to work? This is not the type of person that I would ever think that I am, but the reality of the situation is that I'm forced to think differently. Thank you for your time.
Madam President, that concludes the hands raised at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner, and Dr. White. I'm sorry, I'm reading my minutes. We'll move forward to the action items. The first being the approval of the board meeting minutes for January 10th. There a motion to accept the minutes. Dr. Joyner,
I motion to accept the minutes,
for a second.
January 10th.
Second.
Mr. Wilcox, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Any discussion? I just have a couple of small things. The first one being for the attendees. Dr. Tracy should be listed as an attendee, as she's the ex officio board member. And then the other is I was reading through the first few votes and I didn't see that the second was listed. So the person who seconded the motion
Which motion?
was listed. So it was the motions for the votes at the beginning. So all three of them. But then I see that afterwards it's listed, the second is listed for the remaining of the votes. So I don't know that it's a big deal, but it's just. Attorney Alexiadis?
Madam President, are you speaking about motions or nominations?
The nominations.
Nominations don't require seconds. If they were seconded, then that should be listed, but nominations typically don't require seconds.
Okay,
And I think that,
I see that the motions are seconded for the rest, so that's fine.
I mean, I recall that that your nomination was seconded and perhaps the others were not, but I may not be remembering that correctly.
I think so, yeah, and that's why I was questioning it.
We
Okay,
asked the recording secretary to check back and make the necessary amendments and bring the minutes back for the next meeting for accuracy.
that's fine, or we can also vote on it with just the corrections, if the corrections are
Okay.
there, if there were seconds. Any other discussion? All right, so we'll vote on the meeting minutes with corrections. Mr. Wilcox?
Point of order, Madam President. Ms. Mason has her hand up if she wanted to
Oh,
shed some light
sorry.
on something here.
Go ahead, Ms. Mason.
Okay. The nominations, there was no seconds for the nominations.
Okay.
There were just votes, nominations and votes for the nominations, but there was no seconds.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So just the addition of Dr. Tracy's name in the attendees list.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll vote on the minutes for January 10. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, Dr. Jones.
Yes.
Did the students ever come in? Ms. Maman?
I'm here.
She's here. Ms. Maman? Yeah, what did you vote, Ms. Maman? for the
Yes,
meeting
I'm
minutes?
sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Fiore still not, right? Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so the minutes pass. Next item is the personnel report, Dr.
Yes.
Tracy.
Thank you so much. Let me see where, Madam President, good evening, board members. Good evening to committee members who may be listening. We have a very short personnel report this afternoon. On this report, we have two. Let me see, I think it's two. No, not really. I was talking about retirement. It's on the other one. No, so I'm going to ask that you accept this short personnel report.
A motion to accept the report, Mr. Wilcox.
Yes, I move that we approve the action items of the superintendent's personnel report.
Thank you. Dr. Jones,
Second.
any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on the personnel report. Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Ms. Malan. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and yes as well, and so personnel reports pass. Finance and operations, Mr. Wilcox.
Madam President, before you move forward, I need to acknowledge on the information on the item that we have one admin, one teacher, and one paraprofessional who are retiring. They have given many years to New Haven Public Schools. And a shout out to Miss Cassandra, one of our paras who worked tirelessly for many years in New Haven Public Schools and is now retiring. I just wanted to acknowledge these three individuals. Thank you.
Dr. Tracy. Okay, Mr. Wilcox.
All right, so next will be the finance and operations action items. It's quite a short list today. First off, I'd just like to ask if there's anybody that would like anything moved separately. If so, let me know, and just remember, you can always let me know ahead of a meeting. And there is an item here that is with Clifford Beers. So President Rivera, if you would move agreement number 2, if you choose to. But I recuse myself on anything related to Clifford Beers because my partner is works on a federally funded grant project there. And even though this is just moving account numbers, I just recuse myself on anything connected to it.
Great, I'll do that now. I'll make a motion to approve agreement number 2, which is amendment number 1 to agreement 961082229 with Clifford Beers Guidance Clinics to change the funding account number from Alliance Grant account number to Alliance Program account with no change in funding.
Second.
Thank you for joining. Any discussion? Okay, so we'll vote to approve agreement number 2 in the finance. Mr. Wilcox,
Recused.
Dr. Jordan,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
students are still not on. Okay. Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so agreement number 2 passes.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to make a motion here, and that is that we approve the remaining 1 abstract and 2 agreements that are listed as our action items that were recommended by the Finance and Operations Committee.
For a second,
Second.
thank you, Dr. Jordan. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on the remaining revenue items. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Jordan,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so the remaining revenue items pass. Students report, I'm guessing no report since there are no students on the meeting. Teaching and learning, Dr. Jordan.
I have hopefully can do this report in 3 minutes. I'm going to time myself 3 minutes or less. I think the critical thing for the board to look at now is a draft statement on TL policies, because the draft statement really specifies a couple of things that are critically important in my estimation and in our estimation when we are trying to create an optimal learning climate for teaching and learning in a district like ours. And the first factor is the characteristics of the students we serve. Those characteristics should determine what we teach, how we relate to those students, and how we assess cognitive, social, and emotional growth. We want to build a system around the students, and instead of the other way around. In fact, I would argue that students are the only non-negotiable in this process. The second point that we want to make in the philosophy or statement is that social and emotional learning are critical underpinnings of academic learning. In fact, if you look at the problems across the country now with student defiance and acting out behavior and TikTok and all that other stuff, those are all social and emotional issues. And it's kind of hard to get to the brain without going to the social and the emotional. And that's a critical part of what we have to understand. The third one is how we assess these students. We should be building on strengths rather than weaknesses. And of course, we all know that in assessment, what gets measured gets done. So if we say we're going to assess the ability to write a proof essay, then that's going to get done. If we say we're going to assess the ability to think critically about a major issue in American life, past or present, then that's going to get done. And of course, if we look at the past history of assessment in a lot of places, we're talking worksheets and that sort of thing. We've got to make sure that is not a practice in our district. Students have to be able to read, write, think, listen effectively in order to be proficient in the 21st century. We can't use 20th century methods to deal with 21st century problems. The fourth issue is providing teachers with the material resources, professional development, and social and emotional support to teach, which is a core function of the board, our administrative staff, and our family structures. Because teachers cannot teach effectively if there's even one defiant child in the classroom. And it's up to that structure around the child, the family, the administration, the board, and the community to help students understand that they are accountable for a certain type of behavior in the learning environment. And that's the fifth one, that students must be held accountable for their roles in the learning process. And the sixth one is families must be held accountable for their role in the learning process. So I was over by 8 seconds. But I'm a member of the board, and I only violated our policy by a public comment policy by 8 seconds.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Dr. Joyner? Comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you very much, President Rivera. As we are aware that about 2 weeks or more ago, our staff attendance was an aberration in the district due to COVID and other factors. I'm happy to report that staff attendance is back to normal daily absences and we're able to function. That doesn't mean we do not have spots where teachers may be sick or staff may be out, but we're back to normal daily function at the school that's manageable. Let me put it that way, that's manageable. For the first time, all bus routes were covered today. And we just shouted out, yay, for the first time. All the bus routes were covered, which is something that's an excitement for us because this has not been like that. The correct water filters have arrived as we promised and are being installed in our schools. So we don't have to hear the water issue. As soon as we install those, then all our schools will have the water filters ready. COVID cases reported in our VOC system for last Friday was 95 positive cases that impacted more than 30 schools. Now I do not have the rate of quarantine from this because this was plucked from the VOC system where there are different forms of reporting. Dr. White is familiar with that form of reporting. Sometimes we do not know at the school level because a child may have tested positive in his or her doctor's office. Those things are uploaded in VOC system. So we are only going by what is in that VOC system. It is important that we keep our doors open for our children. And I'm here to say we're happy we had school open for our families. No regrets there, even though we saw a spike in COVID and it still probably will climb. I guess they say things have to get worse before they get better. So we're watching and we're happy to see the rates going down in Connecticut. The Northeast is flagged as one of those areas where the rates are going down for COVID positive cases, and we're happy for that. We're happy for the mitigation strategies that have been put in place, the mayor and the state support and the Department of Public Health for what we're doing, Dr. White and Eric and others for doing those contact tracing and making sure we're doing what's in our hands that we can do. The state, I must say, has supported us with testing kits and masks, and also the city of New Haven have supported us with our testing kits and masks. So both ways, New Haven Public Schools is being supported. We're looking at the new definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated, and we'll have to pivot to what that new meaning is at another date. Budget. So solidify next year's 2022-23 budget proposal will be reported at our next meeting. And we want to make sure that we continue to support our students and our staff in New Haven Public School. That's what we're here for. There may be a lot of negative voices out there, but you know, as usual, I ignore the negative voices and focus on what is positive. There are a lot of great things. There are a lot of great things that are happening in New Haven Public Schools, and we have to work hard at accentuating those great things we know are happening in New Haven Public Schools. We do acknowledge that because of what's happening with the disruption of the students' learning through quarantine and other things, that we have a long way to go in making sure we help our students to learn and not falling too far behind. So we're working on those things. We're trying to find where so many of our students are right now who are not showing up to school. And YFCE and the team, they're working very hard in finding our students. Not easy, but I know that, and I'm confident that there's great effort being made to locate our students and to support them in their learning needs. As you know, New Haven has a high amount of homeless families, which also result in a lot of homeless students. So on either end, we're working with our families. We also have, I think, I'm not sure, Gemma, how many refugee families came into New Haven recently and how many of those children are embedded now in New Haven public school system, that we have to make sure we take care of physical needs. We have to take care of social emotional needs. Some of them are from war-torn countries, and we know that there's trauma involved. And so staff is working very hard to provide support for all students. I will now turn to Mr. Marco Middleton and Ms. Michelle Bonanno for sharing what is happening in our upcoming Magnet Lottery program. They're going to share some information with us. And then after that, we'll get family and school feedback presentation from my Chief of Staff, Dr. Michael Finley. So Michelle or Marquel, I see Marquel.
Yep, we're here.
Okay.
Thank you to the members of the board for having us tonight. We're excited that we are kicking off our school choice campaign this week, starting this evening with a public presentation to all of you, followed up by a parent workshop that we'll be hosting on January 27th. Information for all of our upcoming events is on our website, newhavenmagnetschools.com. I'm going to share my screen right now to showcase the PowerPoint we'll be going through tonight. I'm going to quickly go through it. I know that it was in your board packet, and then we are available to answer any questions that anyone might have. Can everyone see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So in New Haven Public Schools, we believe that school choice matters. We're very committed and dedicated to making sure that we match families with a school that has a theme and a program that allows all students to excel. We have many options available to parents, 14 interdistrict magnet schools, 9 citywide magnet schools. So those are schools that are available to New Haven residents that may or may not have a neighborhood designation, 10 community neighborhood schools, 2 comprehensive high schools, and 6 charter schools who are not underneath the New Haven Public Schools LEA, but do participate in our school choice process in an effort for us to make it universal and easy on all residents. So each year, the New Haven Public Schools, as you know, host the school choice campaign. Last year, we had just over 5,000 applicants, which is lower than our traditional applicant counts, but over 75% of those students did end up matched with a school that their parents applied for. It may not have happened in the first round, but once we exhausted all wait lists, that is around where we landed. So who can apply and where they can apply? New Haven residents can apply to any neighborhood school. It does not matter if that is your neighborhood zone school. There will be priority given to students who live in a zone, but anybody can apply to any citywide magnet school, to any interdistrict magnet school, and then any of the charter schools who participate in our process. Most of those are Achievement First. We have Common Ground that participates with us, Highville Mustard that participates with us. And then we do accept non-New Haven residents in our city interdistrict magnet schools and through the state of Connecticut's open choice program. And that lottery is facilitated by ACES. We do not facilitate the lottery for open choice students. So we really are trying to promote 4 key concepts for all parents this year to help them sort of simplify the process. And the first of those steps is to explore. And so as I stated, we have an open house coming up, a parent workshop coming up on the 27th. Our virtual expo is this Saturday from 9 to 12. You can register for that and gain access to that with all of our schools that will be presenting through newhavenmagnetschools.com. That is virtual. All of our open houses will be virtual this year. And so we ask parents to really take the opportunity to explore the schools and to make sure that the school that they're looking at is a good match for their child. The one thing that we often come across that we really try hard to deal with in the beginning of this process is, my child got into this school and we realized that this is not really a good fit. They really don't like the arts. And then it's very difficult for us to transfer them or deal with that when the school year is underway. So we ask parents to take this time very seriously, to explore our open houses, to reach out to us and ask us any questions that you might have. And every school has a contact listed on newhavenmagnetschools.com that people can follow up directly with specific questions about a school program. Then there's the application period. And so exploration and application happen simultaneously. And so we will kick off the exploration stage on Saturday, the 29th, and then applications will open on January 31st for parents to begin the application process. They will have the whole entire application window that they were able to go in and out of the system and make changes. If they can change their rank, they can decide that something might be too far from their house after they find out more information about busing and that kind of information. So the portal is open for them until February 28th. Once we close the portal, we do not allow anyone to go back and make changes to their application. From February through March 31st, our office will be working on verifying the priorities that are assigned to each applicant in the lottery, so that we make sure that if there is a sibling, that is verified. If there is an address provided, that we verify that child gets the priorities. And then on March 31st, we will release the results to every parent via email. And then lastly, and this is a part that often parents think that they're done after they accept their seat, but it's very important if you're new to the district that you come into our office, schedule an appointment to come into our office, or complete the online registration process so that we can make sure that we get you enrolled into your program. And so we're asking everybody to explore, apply, accept, and register. Where's my... So I went over the dates of things that are coming up: the expo, the application closing, student placement. So as you know, it is a computerized algorithm that places students and gives priorities to neighborhood and siblings. Some of the themes that we have available to people in the community are art and music, STEM, literacy, discovery. Again, we ask parents to think about the distance from their home. Would it be okay with you if it takes you a half hour to get across town? That's how long your child might be on a bus. So think about those things in advance, because we can't make a lot of changes once the process happens. Again, school hours, making sure that they're convenient. Not all schools in New Haven start and end at the same time. Before and after school programs are very school specific, so make sure to think about those things. The availability of services, if your child requires bilingual services or English learner programs, ensure that the program that you're applying to has the available services necessary to meet your child's needs. I'm gonna skip over that one. I talked about neighborhood and sibling preference. There's a frequently asked questions page on newhavenmagnetschools.com that cover all of the questions that we normally deal with. Things like, why didn't my child get placed at my school of choice? Is my child on a wait list? All of those answers can be found on our website under the FAQ section. And so one of the tools that we launched 2 years ago and have been working to upgrade every single year is our School Explorer. And so we have an entirely digital opportunity for parents to explore each of the schools that are available through choice. They can go onto our Explorer website. They can simulate an application to understand their chances based on last year's results of getting placed at a school of their choice. They can look at a virtual tour of the school. We have drone footage and 360 tours of classrooms and all of the large spaces, since we are not able to let parents in due to COVID. And then also on the website, we have added transportation information so parents can get a sense of what the walking distance is or what it would be like on a school bus based on this year's bus routes for their families. So they have a better understanding of what they would be signing up for in terms of transportation. And so that link and that tool is available again right through newhavenmagnetschools.com. People can sign up with all of their information and get the best information available considering their circumstances, or you can log on as a guest and just explore and take a look at what we offer. So I will open it up to questions. I tried to go through fairly quickly. I wanted to beat Dr. Joyner, but I didn't set the timer, so I don't know if I did or not. But we're happy to answer anyone's questions here tonight and hope to see some of you with us on the 27th and the 29th.
Dr. Benitez has a question, and then Mayor Elicker.
Yes. First of all, it's great to see both of you, Marquel and
Thank
Michelle. Really, it's great to see you. It looks like you've done quite a bit of work in improving the process. I like what I see in terms of virtual opportunities. I'm just a little bit concerned, especially after the conversation we had about how many homeless families we have. And I am wondering if we made arrangements with the public libraries or any sort of arrangements for families who may not be comfortable dealing with digital spaces, and how, you know, are those things happening in the different neighborhoods, and how are you addressing that type of a family?
So I'll let Marquel talk about specifics, but our office is open every single day from 8:30 to 4:30 to serve anyone in person in the public. And we have recruitment specialists available, so parents can call and make an appointment. They do not have to use an online system to do that. They can walk in, and we have an iPad right in the vestibule for parents to log in. And we do take parents, you know, one by one, so that we have time to clean the office in between, especially because we're in the middle of a surge. And so parents are always welcome to come into our office to get that one-on-one support that we know many of them need. As far as community outreach beyond what we're doing virtually, Marquel, I don't know if you want to chime in, but to be fair, we do not have as many in-person opportunities as we normally would because of the pandemic circumstances and being in the middle of a surge. But again, always happy to deal with families one-on-one right within our office. Marquel, was there anything that you wanted to add? I don't know if I missed something that you guys might be doing.
Oh, I think that was really it, but just knowing that we are there if families need support. If a family is not comfortable with the computer and filling out the application, they're more than welcome to come down to our office. We'll assist them on the computer, and we do have paper applications if necessary.
And we do want to point out that our website can be translated into many, many languages. We just recently added Pashto and some new languages that we see that are arising in New Haven, but families are able to read all of the information in the language that is that is necessary for what they speak at home.
If I could jump in, I'm sorry, it just came to mind. We also have did a lot of training with our school counselors at the schools and staff. So if there is a family that is dealing with the instance of homelessness and needs support, the school counselors at the school are very well versed and have been trained to assist as well.
Thank you. Mayor Elicker?
Thanks for the presentation. And I've been to the fairs in the past, and they're really great. So there's a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. So thanks for organizing. I had a quick question about, can you remind us as far as overall numbers of interdistrict magnet students that are coming to New Haven compared to normal years?
So we're just above 2,000 this year. We always tinker around 27 to 28 100 students. So the enrollment is down. We did not leave seats open in those schools where we were able to work within the 75-25% legislation. And so if there were New Haven residents on waiting lists, they were placed in those spots if we did not have a waiting list for interdistrict students. And that is different than what was done in the past, but it was absolutely done in order to maximize opportunity for anyone who is interested in the school. Again, we can't go outside of 75-25, and our district goal is 69-31, just to make sure that we always are moving towards the compliance that the state wants. One thing that I do want to say publicly is pre-K3 applicants for New Haven residents was very down last year. Almost every family who applied to a magnet program last year was placed in a pre-K, which has never happened historically. So we're doing a lot of outreach with the early childhood team. But we do want to say to parents, we have very safe environments in our schools. Our schools are safe. There are COVID protocols. We have good evidence that there's not spread happening in schools. And so we encourage you to apply and take advantage of those opportunities for our New Haven kids.
Thanks, Michelle. And do you have just a general ballpark of the financial impact of the drop in district students?
I believe it was close to $1 million, but I will follow up with the board after this so that you guys have the solid number of what it was, because we were just solidifying the enrollment with the state for January.
Great, thanks.
Mayor Oliver, Mr. Wilcox.
Yes, thank you. And also thank you for this presentation. I just want to make sure that I understand, because I get questions about this. It is, there's not no way to game this system. You put in your preferences, your student or the parent's preferences in the order that you have that preference.
So not the order that you have it. So you're going to rank schools in the order in which you like them. And so we use a deferred placement algorithm. And so every choice is treated as a separate application. And so the system runs every choice as an application as a round. And so you can get placed in a school that you had no priorities. That was your first choice. But in the second round, someone who likes something else better that didn't get a placement, that has a priority at the school that you were placed at, bumps you because their priority kicks in. And so the way in which you rank has no bearing on if you'll get placed or not. Your priorities will kick in no matter where you place the school that you have a priority. If you don't get into something that you ranked higher. But it does not run it by priority. It runs it by choice. And then the priorities kick in to place kids and try to match as many kids as possible.
Okay, I think I'm confusing, because I thought I saw on one of the slides that and I'm looking at the one that was posted online, and I think was also in our packets, is the best strategy for parents to do is to list the schools that they like in the order that they like them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
that's your choice. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you do want to put them in the order that you want them.
Absolutely.
And the goal of the algorithm is to give you your first choice if it can, and if it can't, your second choice, or your third or your fourth. So the order is important that you list them.
It's absolutely important. What we went away from is a system where people would choose something first and have a priority for that school, because they would say, well, I don't like it as much as I like Davis, but if I don't put it first, my priority really doesn't matter because all the seats would be taken. And so we got away from that to the deferred acceptance, which is no matter where you place the school that you have a priority at, your priority will kick in. And it will bump another kid out that might not have a priority at that school. This way, we don't have people trying to strategize and picking schools that they don't really love because they might have a priority there. So we just want you to rank the schools that you love, and the algorithm will do the rest.
Okay. So the other question that I've had in the past, and I just want to confirm the answer on this, is I've had some folks using the strategy, I guess, of I only want to go to this school, I will only list this school.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there might be other schools that they would be happy with the idea that, oh, this is the one, and if I list it, then they got to give it to me. But that's not the case, right? So
That is not the case. The only
Okay.
time you would do that is if there are truly no other schools that you would be happy with. Because the way that our system does work is once you are placed, you do not remain on the waiting list for any other school, not even for a period of time. And that is really because we have such a large volume that we have to reconcile enrollment for schools. So we can't have kids get placed at their third and then move up to their second school and then their first school because it moves that quickly. And so it's really important for parents to know if you truly do not want something else, then you should only list one school. And if you are waitlisted for that school, then you're taking the chance. But you will always have a placement if you're a New Haven resident and another school in the district. You can't go without placement. But if you get selected in number 3, number 1 and 2 will not be available to you anymore.
Okay. And then the final thing is that if you are not, if you don't get any of your preferences, then there's a default school for you to go to based on your location in the city. Is that correct?
That is our attempt, is if you do not get any of your choice, you remain on the waiting list until October 1st for non-residents and October 30th for New Haven residents. And so you can get pulled off at any point for any one of your choices. And if you don't get pulled off for your choice, we always give you a default school, which is the school that has an available seat closest to your house. So if you're on the east side of town, to be fair, it is so densely populated on the east side of town that you could be ending up, there could be 3 schools that are much closer to you than the school that you get defaulted to because of the dense population on the east side of town. And so, I think sometimes parents think, oh, that just means I'll just go to the school across the street if I don't get one of my choices. And unfortunately, we cannot accommodate that given the oversubscription of certain neighborhoods in the city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no more questions for the Magnet office team. Thank you so much, Ms. Bonanno and Mr. Middleton. You guys are doing an awesome job. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Okay, we now turn to my Chief of Staff, Dr. Michael Finley. He's going to make a presentation, as you've seen in your packets. Just want to point out, this is a small sample size. We're just looking at a microcosm, just a small group of the amount of staff members and that we have in New Haven Public Schools. We have not yet gone outside of this group, but that will be coming. We're trying to get some kind of, what would you call it? A feel of where people are in terms of their perceptions of New Haven Public Schools, what they think are going well, what could be improved. And so we just have a small sample size right now to share, and then later we will enlarge that. So Dr. Finley.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Let me share my screen. All right, today I will be presenting to you our family and district feedback presentation. Thank you for your time and your attention in advance. Our first slide highlights our strategic plan, which includes our vision, mission, core values, and priorities for 2020 to 2024. The purpose of this particular presentation is to provide stakeholder feedback to help inform the continuous planning and improvement of New Haven Public Schools. The structure of the presentation, we will look at our participants. We will talk about limitations, stakeholder perceptions, and opportunities at the end. As it relates to the context of this particular survey, as Dr. Tracy mentioned, this is a very small sample size. The goal was to create a space where people could provide feedback in a safe manner, so without pressure. So the people who responded, they responded out of the goodness of their heart, and they provided good feedback. And this feedback, they had the opportunity to respond in paragraph form, so there were not any limitations as it relates to how long their response could be. This was not a multiple choice survey. So when we get to the bar charts, the numbers will not align due to participants being able to speak to multiple points. My job was to capture their points and capture their feedback. Demographics for this particular survey, we had 475 parents. We had 120 student participants, 53 support staff, 188 teachers, 31 school-based administrators, and we had 26 district staff members. Limitations. This report is based on the staff that responded without influence. Again, we wanted to create a safe place where they could provide their feedback without pressure to try to get honest, real feedback. Try to face the brutal facts around what we're doing well and things that we can improve upon as a district. Community stakeholder perspective outside of parents is not included in this particular report. That is the next level of work. Also, a limitation is the view of district via lenses of a person that is not from New Haven. I'm not originally from New Haven, and I haven't worked in New Haven in the past until recently, which I'm happy to be here now. Focus question focused on 3 questions to present today. What brought you to New Haven Public Schools and what keeps you here? What do you think is going well in New Haven Public Schools? And what do you think we could improve in New Haven Public Schools? Stakeholder survey. You'll hear perceptions, see perceptions from our district leadership, school leadership, teachers, support staff, students, and parents. This first slide, the first slide speaks to our first focus question. What brought you to New Haven and what keeps you here? Again, this is a very small sample size, but the goal was to get honest feedback. The highlighted blue, well not highlighted, the letters that are in blue, those particular themes speak to more so what brought them to New Haven. And the black speaks more so to what keeps them here. Okay, so the bar chart at the top corresponds with the chart at the bottom. For example, district staff at the bottom left, job opportunity, you'll see 10 beside that, which aligns with the bar chart at the top. New Haven, born went to school here, 8, to give back, commitment, 6, and challenge is 4. What I will provide to you today, in the sake of time, I'm going to provide a balcony view, a highlight from all the data versus going through each individual theme, because that would take a long time. But you can see within this particular presentation, the ground level feedback as it relates to the perceptions from our district staff, our school administration, teachers, support staff, then you'll see parents and you'll see students as well. For this particular question, it was focused more so on district staff, school admin, teachers, and support staff. All right. So some highlights as it relates to what brought staff to New Haven. First and foremost, New Haven ties. They either born here, went to school here, family from New Haven. So, you know, they were brought up in New Haven, of course. That's the number one thing that brought got people here in New Haven. Number 2 is job opportunity. Graduated from college, needed a job, or opportunity presented itself. That would be the second theme that speaks to why our staff is here in New Haven. As it relates to what keeps them here, students and families, that's the number 1 theme that comes from that particular data. Our staff, they love the families and students that they serve, and they're connected to them. In addition to that, number 2 would be giving back and commitment. There's a commitment from our staff related to New Haven. They love the New Haven community and they want to give back. There is data that supports that they want to give back to the families that raised them. In addition to that, working in the inner city to have an impact. So giving back and our students and our families are the 2 highlights as it relates to what keeps them here. In addition to that, our teachers definitely mentioned their colleagues and their staff is definitely something that also keeps them here. They love the people that they work with from this particular group of teachers. Slide 2 speaks to what is going well in New Haven Public Schools. And again, you can follow the data as it relates to themes, our district leadership to the left, school of men in the middle, and parent to the right. And you can see for our district leadership, the top themes were leadership and teachers and staff. For our top 2 for school of men, it was teachers and staff and social emotional learning focused. And for parents, it was teachers and staff and communication. So I'm gonna speak to the highlights of this particular slide. You can follow the data as it relates to the numbers beside the words if you want to go deeper down into the data. But from a balcony level view, number 1, as it relates to what's going well in New Haven, it's our teachers and staff. Our teachers and staff by far, it's documented as what is going very well within our district. Speaking to them being dedicated, committed, caring, hardworking, students' perspective, giving multiple opportunities for success, student perception, they feel like they can connect with their teachers, even if it may not be in the content area that the teacher teaches. So our teachers and our staff are definitely the highlight for what is going well in New Haven Public Schools. Number 2, following that is in-person learning. There's definitely high feedback as it relates to students being back in school full time and learning. 5-day in-person learning, it has been a challenge. However, people are happy that it is happening. Our students are happy to be back in school via the data as well. Number 3 speaks to school leadership, our principals, our assistant principals. It is noted that they're supportive administrators. Also, it's noted that there's positive feedback related to our new principals. We have staff members in the building who love the new direction that the new principals are taking things, where they're taking them. Dr. Tracy's leadership was also noted as it relates to leadership in our district as a theme. Her vision, compassionate leader. Number 4 would speak to resources that are provided. Resources support our staff as it relates to access to technology and resources related to curriculum. Support for our students related to support staff, social workers, counselors, teachers, of course, who have the relationships with that they can turn to and connect with when they're going through a trying time. Support for families via the pandemic, food, technology, just support to help them get through. Support from assistant superintendents, district leadership as it relates to supporting schools. ESSER grants, funding, more money available to be able to support the needs of students, and improve technology. Those are some of the pieces that some of the things that fell up under the resources category. Communication was also noted as something that's going well. And there's two sides of this coin, but we're going to speak to the positive right now. So parents do feel like they are getting calls, they're getting texts, and they're getting emails, classroom, dojo around what's happening within school as it relates to their children and events that may be coming up. So the next slide speaks to what we can improve in New Haven Public Schools. We're not a perfect district by far, so we have things that we do well that we want to continue to build upon, but we also have things that we need to improve within the district. The first 2 for teachers, speak to I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. The next slide, okay. So this particular slide speaks to what we can improve in the district. The first two, district leadership, speaks to collaboration and staffing. For school administration, it speaks to staffing and leadership. For parents, it speaks to communication and transportation. From balcony level view, to give you highlights, some things that were noted, staffing is definitely by far the number one thing that was noted that we need to improve upon. Subs, teachers, support staff, a number of support staff pieces relate to supporting students as it relates to behavior, social emotional supports, social workers, counselors, security, ISS coordinators, and not a lot of pieces fall up under that support staff piece to support teachers and administrators in the buildings. Culture and climate is number two. This right here focuses highly on behavior. Behavior was noted at a high rate, high level is noted a number of times within the data. In addition to that, culture and climate, students would like to see more clubs, more sports. In addition to that, more field trips. I know that we don't have, we can't do a number of things due to COVID, but they definitely would like to see more field trips, more sports, more clubs, not only in high school, but also in the at the middle school level as well. So going down the district, I'll walk through the actual themes for each one, and I'll try to do it briefly. Collaboration for district leadership. It was feedback related to silos. Feel like at the district level, there's a lot of work that is done in silos. So an area that we can improve on is working collaboratively together to solve problems versus working individually. As it relates to staffing, I just spoke to that as it relates to the balcony view. Communication, just making sure that the communication that may start at the district level is getting to all stakeholders, our teachers, our parents, and that we all are on the same page when we are communicating within the district. Training is something from the district where all of the departments that I met with, the personnel, noted that training of staff is something that definitely could be improved. All of the departments feel like their people could continue to learn more, so they're better able to do their jobs. Role clarity, just being very specific about who's doing what, so there's no confusion, and people can move in their right lane, but also be collaborative and supportive as well. School administration, staffing, I spoke to staffing already. Leadership goes back to the, some of those particular pieces speak to taking some of the things off of the teacher's plate. They feel like the teachers have too much on their plate, and there's a feeling that, you know, every day there's something new that's coming that makes their plate even heavier. So working to try to reduce the load off of teachers' plate. Also, from a school administrative point of view, they feel like there are too many district initiatives, and there needs to be a clear instructional focus within the district. Lastly, sustainability planning is something that was mentioned as well. As it relates to training, school administrators feel like training could definitely be continued and better as it relates to PD for new curriculum, culturally relevant pedagogy, handling difficult staff, restorative practices, by literacy model, et cetera, et cetera. For academics, improvement of instructional practices, interventions, student engagement, growth, and achievement are areas of focus where we can improve as it relates to the academics. Communication, just ensuring that the communication from district office is not last minute. They definitely want us to ask questions versus assuming as it relates to communication, and making sure that we're all on the same page from the communication that's pushed out. From a parent perspective, communication, things that we can improve. I told you it was two sides of the coin. On the positive end, they felt like some parents felt like we are communicating and they're receiving the text messages, the emails, and Class Dojo. On the other side of the coin, you have parents who feel like there's too much communication that is happening. In addition, they feel like the communications are last minute at times. They also feel like there's a lot of errors when communications go out. In addition to that, they feel like the website could be better. They don't feel like it's maintained at a level that it could be. It could be a whole lot better. And at times there are language barriers as it relates to communication. Transportation, the late arrival, dismissal, I think that's getting better, but that definitely was a highlight. Excuse me. Communication about time as it relates to the communication about, buses being late or buses getting, when buses are going to get home. So the communication, and also just, getting them there and home at a decent time. Also the app, some parents feel like the app is inaccurate. As it relates to staffing, I spoke to staffing earlier. School culture, climate, fighting, bullying, disruptions, drugs, vaping. Those are things that were mentioned. As it relates to academics, lack of instruction from a parent's perspective, lack of rigor, feels like work is dumbed down, change programs too fast before having time to see if it actually works. So that feedback was definitely within the data. They feel like we start something this year, and after next year, we're on to the next thing without seeing if it actually has some traction. Access to learning when students are absent or quarantined. They definitely feel like they need more access for their child to be able to learn if they're absent or they had to sit out for quarantine. Other highlights from parents, it was also noted that before and after care were things that are missing at some schools that they definitely want in place. And parents are eager to get back into classes, get back into schools. They want to attend events for their kids, and they want to meet their teachers face to face. Also, it was mentioned that they would love to have more time as it relates to parent-teacher conferences. Teacher perspective, improvement, discipline, as I spoke earlier, more accountability. I feel like the accountability is not there. Need to be more consequences for student actions. More staffing needs to be in place to support the behavior concerns and continue SEL supports. The staffing pieces are highly connected to supporting the behavior of students to try to give them that help and support so that we can try to keep them in school, but at the same time develop them. The academics, just a priority to focus on the growth, achievement, and engagement of students. Also curriculum development for improvement. There was a mention to focus on, from a teacher's perspective, to focus on career and trades as well, and not just college. Suggestions for a pathway. They mentioned, mastery-based learning versus project-based learning, et cetera, et cetera. Support staff. Staffing, spoke to staffing already, it's pretty much the same feedback. Leadership, they would like for leaders to hold, district leadership to hold staff accountable, staff and administrators. They would like for better policy development and enforcement of all of the policies that are developed. and equity amongst schools as it relates to resources. There's a feeling or a perception that certain schools have a little more than other schools. Pay is definitely something that was mentioned as it relates to support staff, and also teachers feel like need more pay. SEL, more SEL focus and supports. And discipline was also an area that we need to continue to improve upon from support staff perspective. From a student's perspective, facilities was something that was mentioned. That was number one for them. The cleaning of facilities, restrooms need to be remodeled, painting, roof concerns as it relates to leaks in the building, soap dispenser, sanitizer, paper towels. So a number of facility concerns from our students that were noted when I met with them. Culture and climate, fights, slurs, bullying. They would like more activities that I spoke to earlier as relates to after school programming, sports, fine arts, clubs. Student support is the next one for them. They would like to continue SEL supports. They want better pathways as it relates to their counselors to get support as it relates to the college process. Other pathway options, this came up from their perspective. They want to make sure that they have people who they can connect with that can speak about the trades and alternative education. There's also feedback related to the middle school transition. Students didn't feel like they don't feel like the middle school transition is a strong one that helps prepare them for high school, the next level. Academics, students want engaging and relevant instruction and curriculum. Students mentioned Wellness Wednesdays. They used to have this, I think, when last year during we're still in the pandemic, but last year when they were on distance learning, I think Wellness Wednesday was like a catch-up SEL day, social emotional learning day. They spoke very highly of this, say it really helped them to manage their work and also support their mental health. They also wanted time for study hall, and they want to work at their own pace as it relates to their learning. Communications, students want us to reach out to them to see how they're being treated. Their words. Pathways for clear communication. And lastly, include them in decision-making process. So that was the improves. And then I'm going to previous. Real briefly, I'm gonna fly through this, but I want to make sure that I'm thorough in my communication as it relates to this particular feedback. Okay, so I will go to the last slide, the next to last slide, which speaks to opportunities. So opportunities for our district, core values. I think reconnecting our stakeholders, all stakeholders back to our core values is an opportunity for our district. We have 4 core values, and I feel like our core values, that's the fabric of our district, and we should talk about it. We should, definitely practice to ensure that we're upholding those particular pieces, but also just, communicate about them. Do our stakeholders know what our core values are and why they're important? We want our stakeholders to be able to see themselves within our vision and also in our values, because they're ours, not just the district's. They're all stakeholders' values. Number 2, clarity around policy. So continue work on policy development and communication of them, and clear expectations around like what we're teaching and how we're going to assess it, which is extremely important, which a lot of that work is already happening. Progress monitoring, pay attention to needs, strengths, barriers, and respond from the data and the feedback that we get, and invest in our talent, meaning we have to recruit, we have to hire, we have to develop, and we have to maintain our staff. Our facilities, invest in our facilities. They look pretty on the outside, but there's a lot to be done with them to upkeep them. And by doing that, we will be able to invest in our students, because we'll be able to give them the best facilities. We'll be able to give them the best teachers and support staff and administrators to be able to support them with their needs. Very last slide. Next level of work, just community stakeholder survey to get input from stakeholders that we did not this particular round, and to continue to listen to and understand the context. Provide safe avenues for feedback for all stakeholders. And last but not least, prioritize, plan, respond, and listen for continuous improvement. And that is the end. Thank you for listening, and I will be quiet and ask for questions right now.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Finley. That was really good information. Dr. Tracy, did you want to say something before I open up?
Before the questions are asked, I may say that, adding to what my chief of staff has done. As you know, most superintendents entering a school system have what is called a listening tour, and they get community and other stakeholders feedback as to what's going well and what's not going well, and then they make plans to act upon those things. This superintendent came in with her 2 feet on the ground, running in a COVID pandemic, taking care of COVID needs and what have you. That's why I always say I'm a COVID superintendent. So there was no time. Even if there were time, you cannot go and interface with the public, and we are tired of Zooming. So I charged my chief of staff to just get an idea right now of what is happening, the perceptions of people, because perception is good. We need to hear from our stakeholders, because we may think we're doing such a great job, but then when you hear from the people who are working with you and for you, it changes that. So we want to be very transparent. That's why he laid out everything, good, bad, indifferent, that he's hearing, that we are very transparent with what we're sharing with you. And you may ask, why now? It's never too late to hear what our community people are, what our people are saying. We start internally with a micro group of people, and then we can spread out to hear other ideas from our community and other stakeholders. So the question may be, so what? What do we do now? How do we move from here? And that's for us as a team, as a board, to work together to see the areas we're going to start prioritizing. What are these areas that can give us a big bang for our bucks as we listen to teacher voices, student voices, administrators' voices, and we move forward? The whole objective of making New Haven this premier school system that we're talking about as our vision. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Finley, for doing that work and analyzing that work. It was not easy. It was a lot of volume of handwritten or typed materials, I would say, that he had to go over and really code and analyze to get us at what he just presented from. He approached it from almost like a dissertation perspective, a little action research. Thank you very much, Dr. Finley.
Dr. Tracy, Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, and thank you, Dr. Finley, for the presentation. I just had a couple quick questions. One was around how you selected the participants, just a little bit more information on that process, including if people were able to participate anonymously or not.
Yep. So the selection process, we created a survey and sent the survey out. I did get some feedback from some stakeholders concerned about, if they provide feedback, would it be any retaliation or anything like that. That's why I kept using the word safe. I wanted to create a safe space for them to be able to provide feedback. So I didn't go out and say we're gonna focus on this one group. We sent it out to every stakeholder that we possibly could, and who responded, they responded. I didn't do any anything to try to put any pressure on anybody to respond. It was who responded. That's just solely who responded without any pressure.
All right, thank you. That was the reason why I was asking about that, is when I've talked to some folks, they do express the worry that there could be some sort of retaliation, or they don't want to they want to be helpful, but they also don't want to seem like they're attacking a colleague or a building leader, for instance, but they might have some real issues or feedback that would be important. So maybe having some sort of avenue for anonymous feedback at some point, or possibly reaching out to the union leadership of the unions as how they might be able to talk to their members and bring some of that feedback in, because they might be more open with their leadership than they might be with us or you or anyone. The second question was, if you could send us a little bit more of a summary on the leadership portion of this, in that you had, in some cases it was positive, in some cases it was negative, or room to improve. And since board is part of the leadership, and I'd be very interested to know a little bit more specifics from each of these groups, or in some way, shape, or form, just what some of the things that we should be looking for there. And then also related, if there was something specific in these comments that I'm hoping it's getting to either the staff member with responsibility, or to the committee, the board committee with responsibility for it. So I'm specifically thinking about facilities, some of those comments, to make sure that we're getting work orders or things created. So if there was specific comments there that could be useful, I hope they would get pushed out to the people that could do something about it.
Yes,
thank you.
Yep, and great feedback. Definitely noted around the anonymous feedback avenues, and the same feedback you received, I received via emails from teachers or staff members who were concerned, but a number of them still participated, and I'm the only person who I didn't share that data with any other person within the organization. I definitely kept it to myself, out of respect of everybody who participated. And I will get you those particular pieces related to leadership, and the specific feedback related to different avenues. Those particular people, if they do not have it, will have it.
Thank you. Okay, that is my report. President Rivera, that ends my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Finley and staff. Thank you. Okay, so for the president's report, I just have the committee appointments, which I'll also email to all of the board members. I've spoken to all of you about it, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone where you landed. For finance and operations, we're keeping Mr. Wilcox as the chair. He's done an awesome job with it. We're going to add Dr. Yarborough as the vice chair, and I'll remain on as a board member. Teaching and learning chair is Dr. Joyner, also fabulous job with it last year. We're going to add Dr. Abby Benitez as the vice chair, and then, as you know, the entire board are members of this committee for the policy. For Headstart, Mr. Wilcox will remain as chair, and we'll add Dr. Benitez as vice chair. For citywide school building, currently Mr. Giovanni Sin is the chair. I know there's going to be a vote by the committee whether to either keep him as chair or not. I'm not sure where that will end. Mr. Wilcox and I are on that committee by default, with Mr. Wilcox as the vice chair. For governance, we have the chair as Dr. Benitez. She's been with the district before, and so she'll know how to handle this committee very well, I think. Don't have a vice chair yet, so if anyone is interested in vice chair in that, let me know. We didn't have a vice chair in the past years, past couple of years, if I remember correctly. So that is okay. She'll have support from the staff. Can't fill the vice chair position. For the food service task group, Dr. Yarborough will chair that committee with Mr. Wilcox as the vice chair. And then facilities naming, Dr. Joyner will chair the committee, and I will be his vice chair. We are also planning we're currently planning the board retreat. We're thinking it's going to be 2 nights, probably like a 4 to 8 p.m. or 5 to 9, depending on the preference of the board members. We have the weeks of February 14th, the 28th, or the week of March 7th that we're currently trying to plan. They seem to be the best weeks. I'm thinking a Tuesday and a Wednesday night. If that doesn't work for you all, let me know, and then we'll just have to do one night one week and one night another week. But please let me know within the next day or two, because I'd like to secure the presenter by the end of the week. She's already not available for the week of February 7th, which is the week we were hoping to have it. And then we have February recess the week of the 21st. And so I thought not to do it on that week because we're thinking people will be on vacation or taking some vacation time since school is out. Okay, so I'm going to also email this to the board members and Dr. Tracy so that we have it in writing. Any questions on that, Dr. White? And then Mayor Ellicott?
Madam President, we also need a member for the Committee on Student Elections. There will be a meeting tomorrow night.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I'll work on that. Mayor Ellicott?
You answered my question about sending an email with those dates so that we can review them.
Yes.
But I just wanted to say thank you to all the committee chairs, vice chairs, and members for stepping up either again or for the first time. Very much appreciate all your commitment here. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tracy?
No. Just no, my hands.
Oh, I thought you had to.
No.
You're going like this, so.
Oh, boy.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll move on to the Headstart report. Mr. Wilcox?
All right, thank you. This will be brief, but I do have a couple things I need to bring to everybody's attention. Just there are still spaces available in our Head Start classrooms. So please, if you know anybody who's been thinking about, geez, I'd really like to get my kid into Head Start, the staff would be more than happy to help with the application process and get your student placed. We had a good meeting. We discussed a few things in terms of budget issues, carryover. One concern of mine based on this, and I know this is something that people are already working on, is that a lot of moving parts with some of these funds related to facilities and playground improvements and things like that. So I encouraged the Head Start folks to reach out to Mr. Lamb and Mr. Barbarata to make sure they understand that we don't want to have to carry these funds over. We'd be in a chance of losing some of these funds, and nobody wants that. So I did want to bring that to people's attention. Also, just to say on the Cornell Scott School-Based Health Clinic, that is coming together. They're going to be on site as per their contract February 1st. It's unclear exactly when they're going to be starting to see students, but it should be soon thereafter, and working out all the final details on that. So, but that's exciting news and should be very helpful in us meeting the requirements that Head Start has for things like health physicals and so on that they want students to have. And then finally, the thing I wanted to mention was we've been talking about this big focus area 2 review, and that has not been scheduled yet. So we will have 45 days notice when, but as of last week, they hadn't scheduled it yet. So I guess they're a little slower getting to us than we anticipated, but they will. So that's the Head Start report.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Any questions or comments on Head Start report? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Wilcox, citywide school building.
We had a good meeting on the 13th, I guess it was. Just as a reminder, Mr. Lamb and Mr. Barbarata puts together a pretty extensive report on the infrastructure, various projects that are ongoing. So that is posted as with the meeting materials for that meeting. So I invite folks to take a look at that. One thing that we did also talk about was expanding that report to talk about security issues, perimeter security or building security. Mr. Lamb has worked hard on making it possible to start to flag some things in the ticket system that this is a potential security concern. So it's an interest I know of mine and others on the board. So I appreciate folks taking a look at that, but we want to make sure that those things are being addressed. But that's the school building report or school stewardship report.
Questions or comments? Okay, finance and operations, Mr. Wilcox.
I'll be very brief on this one. We had a good meeting and just wanted to note that the monthly financial report has been posted is with the meeting materials for, I think, for this meeting and with the finance and operations meeting. This does not have an update on the deficit that is forthcoming in another meeting, maybe the next one or the one following. So, but I just want to invite everybody to take a look at that. And if there's any questions to let either myself or Dr. Tracy know.
Questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. I'm guessing there's no report for governance and food service since I haven't had meetings yet, Mr. Wilcox.
I did attend the last food service meeting, and I'll just note that one interesting thing that's also come out of that group is there's a subgroup of some city folks and community members and members of other organizations that are coming together to plan around the food gaps, along with the help of our food service director, to have these plans in place for the several times a year when our food service is not able to provide meals based on vacation schedules or and so on. So there is a group that's coming together, and I think it's great that it's getting more and more coordinated around that. So just wanted everybody to know.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Any questions or comments on food service? Okay, so I will send out the email to the board members and I'll try to include the staff that I know are involved on the different committees so that you connect with the new, especially with the new board members since they're chairing some of the committees. So we can get together before the next meeting date, hopefully. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. If there are no other questions. Okay. Dr. Joyner. Dr. Joyner?
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez? Dr. Benitez? Dr. Benitez?
Looks like she's frozen.
She looks like she's frozen, yeah. So, Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Students are gone. Mayor Arthur?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Dr. Benitez? Oh, no, she's still excused. Okay. So the meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone, and thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Night, have a good night.